I've been doing this now for 25 years, and it never ceases to amaze me at how poorly some of these overseas investors are treated and how their properties are treated. And when you're going and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on an investment property, and that investment property is not performing at its utmost best, then we've got issues. So why would you use a professional property management company? Basically, we're the conduit between the landlord and the tenant. So you, as an owner, don't have to get your hands dirty. You're not in the country. You don't have to worry about your property because a property manager is taking care of that for you. Now, you're going to get a higher quality of tenant if an agency, such as Aussie Property, are sourcing a tenant for you. So we're going to go through and do things like make them fill out an application form. We're then going to process this application form and make sure that they're legitimate tenants by way of, we're going to check out their rental history. Can they afford to rent this property? So we'll check off on that. And then when we've finished doing that, then we come to you, the owner, and we say, look, we found this tenant. This is what they're like. What do you think? Is it a yes or a no? Under no circumstances would we go ahead and just put a tenant into a property and then let the owners know that we've done it. It's just renting out a property is a minefield, and there's a lot of issues. And Aussie Property can act on your behalf and reduce the stress. We've also got systems in place for efficient rent collection, lower repair costs. We have tradespeople that do our repairs and maintenance for us on a regular basis, and because that happens, they then do the work for us at a cheaper rate, and you, the owners, get the benefit of that cheaper rate. Why choose a professional property management company?
An Armidale landlord is warning other homeowners after nightmare tenants left his rental a house of horrors. He says the damage will cost around $12,000 to fix, and he faces paying for it out of his own pocket.
It's the stuff of nightmares. Piles of animal faeces, heaped trash, beer cans and rancid food. The bathroom and kitchen caked in filth. The stench so bad, it's hard to believe people lived here. This is the squalor an Armidale landlord was confronted with a day after his tenants were evicted.
This is unbelievable. I don't know where to start and how to start and what to make to bring that property back to normal condition.
The owner, who doesn't wish to be identified, has had the Fryer Road property since 2012. In that time, he rented it out privately via Gumtree without any problems. Then, 2 years ago, he met the tenants from hell.
They were very nice when they came to the property, and they did that good presentation.
The landlord only carried out 2 rent inspections in 2 years. He says the tenants then refused his visits and turned him away at the door. Neighbours say they saw little sign of the residents, only a car coming and going.
Yeah, the mail was always delivered on top of the mailbox because the mailbox was full and it used to get blown up and down the street, so you just collect it and put it in the bin.
The tenants were given an eviction notice in January after failing to pay rent, but only moved out yesterday, leaving a damage bill of around $12,000, only a fraction of which is covered by the bond.
Clearly, tenants should not behave that way in premises and leave property in that kind of state. But unfortunately, landlords in this state need to make sure that they take all of the steps necessary to secure their investment.
The owner is now warning other landlords and seeking help for the legal battle ahead to recoup the costs. Mia Edgerton-Warburton, 9 News.
So you can see this house here. It's just been absolutely trashed, and I had a poor owner come to me the other day from Singapore, and he said, Paul, can you look after my property? Can you go collect the keys? And so, which I did. I then went out to the property, and it looked not dissimilar to this, and it was a disgrace. And the reason I think that this happens is because we get owners take their property to a local property management company in Perth. They're not used to dealing with expat or overseas owners, And basically, the young lady that looks after the property might say to herself, well, I don't really care about this owner. He's overseas. He's never going to come to my property or come to the property and have a look at it, so I'll just let the tenants do whatever they want. And, you know, the difference between a company that deals with expat overseas owners and doesn't is evident in the way that the properties have been looked after. Our staff are, you know, more than capable of looking after overseas clientele, and they know the nuances and the little differences between an overseas owner and what their expectations are. So we want to be proactive property management rather than reactive. So when you buy your property and then you want to lease it out and get the tenant in there and get some income generating from the property, we're going to come to you and let you know when the lease expires. We want to know, is the rent the right amount for the current time period? You might have had that tenant in there for 3 years. Is your rent rate at 3 years prior? Is it current rent? Is the rent too high? It's one thing to have tenants in your property, then they vacate, and then you say you want to get an extra $20 a week rent, and you keep getting applications at $300, but you want $320. It's not worth hanging out for that $20. You've got to be smart about it. You've got to say, look, all right, look, let's decrease it, get a tenant in there, and then get the property generating an income. So you need to be pretty precise on the rents, or your property manager should be pretty precise on the rents. We need to get them market ready. So with any of our properties, they're going to go on to the internet, particularly realestate.com.au is the main platform that we use in Western Australia. In the other states, it's a bit different. I think Domain's the more popular site. And when we have quite a few properties like we do now in Perth or any state, whatever it may be, you've only got a matter of 3 or 4 seconds to capture the attention and make your property stand out in the crowd. So you might have bought new off the plan, it's settled, but so has 20 other owners. So you need to have your property standing out above the 20 other owners' properties, and that just doesn't mean by making your rent the cheapest. There's other avenues you can do to take to make your property stand out, and one of them is professional photography. All our properties have that. We want to market these homes or apartments on the major sites, realestate.com being the main one, as I said. Opening the property for inspections. A lot of agencies only work 9 to 5. They only open your property during that time. There's no reason we do it. There's no reason why other people can't do it, and that's open them before or after hours and on the weekend. It makes a big difference. You want to have your property open so that every single person who's interested in that price range at a property like that has a chance to get through there. Now, when a tenant is secured, we're going to do a property condition report, and that's free. So I'll go through some of these things and the charges, and a lot of our fee structure is highly competitive, and we don't charge for a lot of standard items that the usual real estate agent would charge you. So free property condition report. Property manager comes in, has a look at does it room by room, and just little things like, there's a chip on the wall, there's a crack in the ceiling, whatever. They're making a notation of the property's condition, and in conjunction with that, they're then going to take photos and make sure that the property is detailed in this property condition report, because when the tenants leave, the property manager is going to go to the property, get this report and go through it. And if there's any discrepancies, then they need to be sorted out by the tenant, and that's whether it's the tenant doing it themselves, if it's a cleaning item, or a window's broken, you need a glazier or whatever, or they just deduct from the bond. It's 4 weeks bond, and they'll deduct from that. We're going to get the tenants to sign some paperwork, a legally binding document called the lease, and that needs to be explained thoroughly to these tenants. and their obligations under the lease. You will pay your rent on time. We will collect it, and if you don't pay your rent, you don't keep the property in good condition, we're going to breach you. Regular inspections with photographs. So quarterly basis, we're going to check your property. We're going to go there, make a report, not as detailed as the property condition report. It doesn't need to be. It's just we have the computer there. We'll go through, make a quick notation on each room, and supply you with photographs so that you can see what condition your property is in and how it's being treated by your current tenants. If there is any maintenance that needs to be done, we can manage that on your behalf. And as I said earlier, we've got the tradespeople there, and we get you a cheaper rate. We can pay bills, collection of rent and utility usage, and then what will happen is we can pay all that for you out of the rent, and then that gets reflected on your monthly statement, which we can then issue to your accountant. So for ease of processing. Regular rental payments with statements issued detailing outgoing. So as I said, end of financial year summaries, we provide those, and monthly summaries with the client monthly rental payments. We can also pay fortnightly, and if you really want your money straight away, we can't do that, but we can do it at least weekly. And as I said here, the rent reviews are very important. With a lease there, so that each time it's renewed, we usually go for 6 or 12 months. We push for the 12 months, and then when that expires, we need to check the rent and make sure that we're getting, that any future tenants paying you the market rate. We don't want your investment property underperforming, and that's why we're proactive with maintenance. So if they go to do the quarterly inspection and they see that there's the paint work in the house is deteriorating, you want to get it repainted, we can then get you quotes. Simple things like that, garden tidies, etc., just to keep your asset at its optimum. At the end of the tenancy, we've got a couple of issues here. We need to make sure the property's marketed for the new tenant, and then we need to handle the outgoing tenant. So we'll put the property up on realestate.com within 36 hours of notice. We'll open the property for inspections. We've got on our site, you can register for attending home opens, and then we want to start the final inspection of the property for the outgoing tenant, and we want the keys back, obviously, and then we use that property condition report to ascertain whether or not they're going to get their full bond back, or if anything needs to be attended to. Now, one of the big things that we do for our clients, a lot of SMATS clients, is we take over their properties from other agents, and whether it's because they're getting charged huge fees, or if it's just through poor management. So the poor management is a big one. We specialise in dealing with overseas clients. So as I said before, it's a very smooth process, and all it would be that you would just check your current management authority, and if it has expired or it's due to expire, you would then write to your current agent, give them 28 days notice, and you'd CC me in and say, look, Paul White is now going to take over the property management. I then contact the outgoing agent, and then I deal with it all behind the scenes, and that includes collection of keys, rent paid to dates, the property condition report, the bond administration, ingoing letter there stipulating how much bond the tenants have paid, etc. And then we contact the tenant. We say, hello, we are now your new managing agents, and here's our details, here's our account details to pay the rent, etc. And it's of no stress to yourselves or the tenants, which is the main thing. We handle it all behind the scenes. If you do have an investment property or you are buying one, insurance is a big deal, And a lot of owners think it's just an added cost. Oh, I don't think I'm going to need it. My property's a strata. What could go wrong? Yeah, well, plenty can go wrong, and I've seen it over the years. So, you know, for the sake of, say, $500 per annum, landlord's insurance is a big thing. And, you know, it protects you against malicious damage of the property or loss of rent just because, you know, a tenant may have absconded. They might have just left, packed up their bags, and I've got to go. I don't want to, and they don't notify us. And then by the time we find out, you know, 2 or 3 weeks have passed and you're losing income, which we don't want. We want that income coming through, to, you know, to generating the monies there. The fees, you know, what fees are involved, and I've got here referred to the management authority, and I can speak to you thoroughly about our fees, and I've got copies of our management authority with our fees on it. And as I touched on prior, our fee structure is a lot different than other agents, and we don't, you know, charge as much. We charge 6.6 in Perth, which is considered very, very cheap. We don't charge for property condition reports. We don't charge for the quarterly inspections. We don't charge the owners when a tenant leaves, and we have to, you know, make sure the property's in good condition and then finalise all the utilities, etc. So there is a huge cost saving, and when the rents aren't as high as they traditionally have been, which is the current scene in Perth, if you can save a little bit of money on your fees, you know, most people are going to jump at that opportunity. And the other difference with our company is that being the director and licensee, in most other agencies, they wouldn't be heavily involved with the property management team. They'd see it as a bolt-on or an adjunct to the sales service, and you know it can't be the case. So you know, we focus on property management hugely, and it's a strong division in our company. And you know, our clients and their properties are you know, they're gold to us, and we treat them with the due respect that they to be treated with. And you know, we offer the on-ground support, you know, as property managers and looking after your property. You know, you can't be there, so we can do the inspections, we can give you the photos, we can report back to you. And we do it in a fashion where we treat you as a local owner the same. You know, just because there's, you know, a divide there in distance doesn't mean you should get, you know, be treated differently or substandard service. So the personal benefits of using someone like Aussie Property is less stress. You're not dealing with the tenants direct. This is freeing up more of your time, and a good property manager can save you, you know, can save you huge dollars. You know, if they're interested in you, they're interested in your property, and they're interested in the tenants, and they're interested in their job, which our staff are, you know, they're going to save you money as opposed to selecting a bad property manager or a bad agency, and, you know, they don't do inspections, they don't do routine checks, they don't even go to your property, but they charge you. This happens, you get charged. So that's me done for today. Thanks for